Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Today started off with these posts from Donald Trump saying this is a great time to buy and be cool. Everything is going to work out well. The USA will be bigger and better than ever before. Then, just a few hours later, he said, based on the lack of respect China has shown the world's markets, I'm raising the tariff on China to 125% effective immediately. At some point, hopefully in the near future, China will realize the days of ripping off the USA and other countries is no longer sustainable or acceptable. Conversely, based on the fact that more than 75 countries have called the US to negotiate a solution to the subjects being discussed relative to trade, and that these countries have not, at his strong suggestion, retaliated in any way, shape, or form against the US, I have authorized a 90-day pause and a substantially lowered reciprocal tariff during this period of 10%, also effective immediately. Now, I did think any pause or negotiations would be delayed a bit longer, but I think what was happening in the bond market did spook some people, and there was enough caving from these 75 other countries to initiate the pause. And now all eyes will shift to the US and China to see really who flinches first. And I thought I heard somebody say something about this being the case earlier this week, and this was always what it was about. I don't know, did you guys hear anything like that anywhere? But seriously, while today is a day to celebrate given the market ripping and things playing out mostly as expected directionally, I will be the wet blanket saying it's far too early to conclude victory here, and thinking this is all in the rearview mirror would be a mistake. We really don't know how these negotiations are going to go with countries coming to the table. For now, the baseline tariff is down to 10%, which is a huge relief, but will they stay there? That's yet to be determined. And while the US is applying the pressure to China, Tesla's energy business would take a significant hit if things don't calm down between the US and China. That's because Tesla sources its LFP cells for the Megapack primarily from CATL in China. And in case you haven't been following along, there is not a quick solution to get LFP cells made in America, as China controls this market to an alarming degree, with estimates pegging China's market share at about 90% of global LFP supply. Hopefully we get a question on the Q1 call about this and how Tesla would respond if this does not get sorted before then.
104% tariffs on China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal IP. I can't litigate in their courts. They take product, technology, they steal it, they manufacture it, and sell it back here. Never has an administration.
400% tariffs? What would that
I
look
want
like?
Xi on an airplane to Washington to level the playing field. It's just not about tariffs anymore. Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. As someone who actually does business there, I've had enough. I speak for millions of Americans who have IP that have been stolen by the Chinese. I have nothing against the Chinese people. They brought great literacy, art, and tech to the world. The government cheats and steals, and finally, an administration, you may not like Trump, you may not like his style or his rhetoric, finally, an administration that puts up and says enough. 400% tariffs tomorrow morning. He'll tell you why. Xi can only stay the supreme leader if people are employed. If we wipe out any business there, because we are still 39% of all consumables on Earth and 25% of the world's GDP, America is the #1 economy on Earth with all the cards. We will not have that forever. It's time to squeeze Chinese heads into the wall now.
A week ago, they're in this very spot. Do not retaliate, and you will be rewarded. So every country in the world who wants to come and negotiate, we are willing to hear you. We're going to go down to a 10% baseline tariff for them, and China will be raised to 125 due to their insistence on escalation.
Important, Trump did say he would consider exempting some companies who have been hit particularly hard by the tariffs, but when asked how he would make those determinations, he said just instinctively. And when asked why he did this now, Trump said that he pulled back on the tariffs but not on China because people were getting yippy and afraid. I still think it's too early to try to do any analysis on any impact this could have on Tesla because, as you can tell, the dust has clearly yet to settle. This will continue for at least the next few days and likely weeks. I will say the wording of this post is rather confusing. He said, "I've authorized a 90-day pause and a substantially lowered reciprocal tariff during this period of 10%. AKA these, quote, reciprocal tariffs all come down to a base 10% and stay on even for these other countries, but for China, it's up at 125%. So what's actually being paused here is those higher reciprocal rates that the market was expecting for these 75 countries that are coming to the table to negotiate. Now, I have seen some concerns out there that if things keep going south between the US and China, then Tesla could get caught in the crosshairs and that China might nationalize Tesla's factory in Shanghai, which would basically be the Chinese government seizing Tesla's factory. That, remember, is currently wholly owned by Tesla. For me right now, if I had to say, I would give the chances of something like that happening at about 5%, probably less. And my main rationale for that is if China were to do that, that would be a huge detriment to any other company looking to invest in China at a time when China is desperately looking for other companies to invest in the country. And even in 2020, when tensions between the US and China were quite high, China did not resort to nationalization. For me, I would view something like that as a last resort, and I think it would take a lot of a downward spiral from here for that to really be on the table. And finally, given the relationship that Elon and Trump have developed and the relationship that Elon has maintained with China directly, I'm not personally worried about this right now, but it's certainly not impossible and good to be aware of something like that again if things continually go much further south. On that note, today China said the US is still abusing tariffs on China. China firmly opposes and will never accept such hegemonic and bullying acts. If the US truly wants to address issues through dialogue and negotiation, they should show the attitude of equality, respect, and a mutual benefit. If the US is determined to fight a tariff and a trade war, China's response will continue to the end. In a post from Elon that I unfortunately missed yesterday because it would have driven my point home, he said, "The Tesla factory, especially our next-gen Cybercab line, is the product. That, autonomy, and Optimus are what matter." So yesterday, when I made the assumption that Tesla is probably not that concerned about sales volume right now, my rationale was that they're laser focused on FSD and Optimus. And obviously, this post from Elon makes me feel even more confident in that assumption. Tesla is set to start selling cars in Saudi Arabia this Thursday. This at a time when Trump is set to visit Saudi Arabia in the coming weeks in his first foreign trip, just after asking the kingdom in January to spend around $1 trillion in the US economy over 4 years. A scholar from the Gulf States Institute said, "I suspect Tesla wants to firmly plant their flag in the Saudi market before Trump's visit and then try to capitalize on momentum thereafter." It's important to keep in mind that Tesla, Elon, and Saudi have not had the best of relationships since the funding secured tweet back in 2018. But one of the primary limiting factors to Tesla's rollout in Saudi is the fact that as of 2024, Saudi had just 101 EV charging stations. They do have massive development plans, which include a goal of 30% EV adoption by 2030, and to encourage that, they formed the Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Company, which aims to boost the number of chargers to 5,000 by 2030, a 50x. So given the lack of infrastructure, I think EV adoption is going to take time, but long term, it's a reasonable passenger car market with anywhere between 500,000 up to 800,000 passenger vehicles sold every year. And SUVs are quite popular in Saudi Arabia. Catching up with Tesla's sales in China, the wholesale number for March came in at 78,828. That number was only down by just over 10,000 compared to March of last year. And given the changeover to the new Model Y, I would say things are definitely going the right direction. The breakdown breakdown for March was 4,700 for export and 74,000 for domestic. And looking at year-over-year data for the wholesale metric, it's down 28% year-over-year. For domestic sales, it's actually up 1.6% year-over-year, and exports are down 57%. Comparing Q1 this year to Q1 of 2024 for the domestic figure, Tesla China actually did over 2,000 more units this quarter. But of course, that means the export figure was down by about 50,000 units compared to Q1 last year, leaving wholesale down by about 48,000. But as I've been saying, given the production changeover, this is all very noisy data. There's not a whole lot I'd be confident deducing here. We'll watch throughout Q2 to see if the export figures pick up, as I would expect. And we don't have the production number for March yet, but doing simple math based on where inventory was and what the wholesale number was, it's definitely making a solid recovery. And we should have that number soon. We also got Shanghai data for week 1 of Q2. It came in at 3,580. Compared to the same week in Q1, that number was 5,500, which was the highest first week ever for Shanghai. So quarter over quarter, Tesla China down 35%. But year over year, we're up 88% through week 1. And the year-to-date figure is now positive, up 3.7%. Joe Tetmeyer shared some cool video footage. Giga Texas has produced its 400,000th Model Y, and to celebrate, they spelled it out with a bunch of red Model Ys. Giga Texas has been producing between 25,000 and 51,000 Model Ys every quarter, dating back to early 2023, after these lines were ramped up throughout 2022. Model Y production in 2023 was about 144,000, and in 2024 it was about 137,000. We have the listed capacity over 250,000 for the Model Y at Giga Texas. So these Model Y lines have been operating at about 56% of the stated capacity over the past 2 years. And this is likely part of why Tesla will make the more affordable models on these existing lines to boost the utilization rates. As I'm guessing most of you have seen, the stock markets went crazy today. The S&P was up 9.5%, the biggest one-day gain since 2008. And the NASDAQ Composite was up over 12%, recording its biggest one-day rise since January 2001. In other words, its second best day ever. So it should come as no surprise that Tesla stock closed the day at $272.20, up 22.69%. It was another huge volume day for Tesla, trading 57% above the average. From a market cap perspective, we're still below 1 trillion, sitting at about 875 billion. And given Tesla's 3.2 billion shares outstanding, that means Tesla added $162 billion in market cap today alone. And I'm telling you, I don't root for the demise of other people. I'm just passing along some data here. Fred Lambert was asked if he was short Tesla, to which he said, "I'm not, but I'm shorting the US markets." This was today at 1:40 p.m. And looking at the NDX chart for today, it was right about that exact time when this parabolic move up happened. I also vaguely recall somebody earlier this week saying that a V-shaped recovery was certainly on the table given the setup. But again, all jokes aside, I think it's too early to declare victory here, so enjoy the day, enjoy the jump, but we do still have some uncertainty ahead. One more reminder, when all of these trade wars have settled, we'll get into more of an analysis on what it means for Tesla and the EV market. But for now, there are far too many moving parts, moving way too fast. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like the video. If you did, you can find me on X, linked below. And a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.